Good morning, Santa Clarita. Welcome in. You are listening to KHTS, your hometown station, 98.1 FM and 1220 AM. This is SCVi Charter School's Eye on the Valley, Homeschooling Answers. I am Matt Watson, your host. It is good to have you in. Welcome, welcome, welcome. So grateful that you joined us this morning. We do appreciate it. We've got an amazing show today. Really excited. You need to be listening today. There's a lot going on our show. We're going to have Mayor Cameron Smythe coming up here real soon. You know, he typically does the 9 a.m. slot on Tuesdays. Well, we had our conversation with Jim Ventris yesterday. 2-hour sit-down conversation about everything going on in and around our community, and he brought us the African American perspective on what's happening in Santa Clarita. And the mayor kindly held off until Wednesday today, and then let us know that he wasn't able to start until 9:30. So we're going to be talking to the mayor that second break. However, that gives you just enough time to start posting your questions. So there's a lot going on in and around our city with the demonstrations and all the different things going on. There were a couple of petitions submitted to the city council last night. Quite a lengthy and eventful city council meeting. If you missed it, I suggest you go back and check the city's feed. It was extremely interesting last night. And I'm sure you've all got lots of questions for the mayor. So go ahead and post them in our Facebook Live feed. That's right, you can catch us on Facebook. Here I am. You can peer into the studio here and wonder why that guy's sitting in the booth all by himself wearing a mask. It's not because I'm crazy, although I am a little bit that. But although you can't see him, I'm sitting right across from Engineer Shane. He's got his mask on as well. We're keeping our distance, but wearing our masks.
We can be crazy together, Matt. It's okay.
Fantastic. I love it. So, yeah, the mayor will be coming in at 9:30. And a little bit later on in the show, hour number 2, we're going to check in with Renee Marshall. Renee is a brilliant educator. She was named Educator of the Month, and she's received all different kinds of accolades and recognition. She's worked with COC for quite a while, and now she's a private educational consultant. She works with a lot of people and a lot of organizations from the state, and she's really got her finger on the pulse of what's going on in education in and around our valley and our state in general. And I know what you're thinking. You're thinking, Matt, can she tell us what school's going to look like next year? Well, yeah, that's why she's coming in. So I know everybody's really chomping at the bit to figure out what's happening with our kids next year, what's going on. Well, Renee's going to be coming in. She's going to be talking about the 55-page document that the California Department of Public Health, along with our state superintendent, Tony Thurman, issued just on Monday. So she's gone through that, and she's going to be sharing her insights in hour number 2. We're going to kick off the show with our show's official licensed marriage and family therapist, Kristina de Bree, and so we'll be getting to her in just a minute. Just wanted to remind you that this special edition of Eye on the Valley is called Homeschooling Answers. I know that the school year is wrapping up. Some of you have wrapped up already, but we're heading into the summertime now, and folks are wondering what's going to happen with my kids. There's very few, if any, summer camps going on, and just checking in with the mayor. He's assuring me that, yeah, we'll be here at 9:30. So, yeah, there's not going to be too many summer camps going on around there, and you're wondering what you're going to do with your kids. You know, oftentimes we get a little concerned about that summer dip, that summer slide. And this year, I think it could be a little bit deeper dip than normal. So I want to make sure that you're aware of our website, homeschoolinganswers.com. This is something that iLEAD schools, along with the experts that work with the staff at SCVi Charter School. This is a website that we put up back in mid-March when our learners were sent home, and all of your kids were sent home to do distance learning. We knew that you were going to need support. So we've got a tremendous amount of academic support there. All different kinds of activities and engaging projects and things like that for your kids. We've sorted it by grade level. We've sorted it by subject area. We've even got a tremendous amount of parent resources for you. So if you're trying to figure out how you're going to get through another 2 months with the rest of the family there stuck at home, head on over to homeschoolinganswers.com. Again, we've got activities for your kids and things for you to pick up on and brush up on to help keep things sane and happy, the learning going, and your kids growing there at home. Homeschoolinganswers.com. Now, Before we get going, like I've been doing, I wanted to give a special shout out to those of you graduating at Valencia High School. I said that yesterday. It's not at Valencia High School, it's at Central Park, but you're graduating from Valencia High School right now. Sure enough, there's going to be cars in line, and you're listening to us on your hometown station. This is actually round 2 for Valencia. They've got such a big graduating class, they needed to set aside 2 days for them. So I'm guessing we're probably middle of the alphabet right now for you Vikings. So I just wanted to say congratulations, graduates. Congratulations, and we at Eye on the Valley are sorry. We are sorry. This is not fair the way that you have to graduate this year. You didn't get a prom. You didn't get your senior ditch day. Although, think of it this way. You guys had 10 weeks of senior ditch day. So maybe you can just reframe it that way when you tell the story to your kids. But nonetheless, you are graduating. It's a huge accomplishment. We are very, very proud of you. Congratulations. Good job. Now, we need you, and we need you now more than ever. So go and make this world a better place. Bless you guys. Congratulations, Vikings. Happy graduation. As I said, we got a great show today. We've got the mayor, we've got Renee Marshall, we've got Kristina de Bree on the line. We are going to go to her right now. She is a licensed marriage and family therapist with an incredible story of resilience and determination. She is a trauma and resilience specialist, and boy, howdy, could we use some of that right now, right? So much trauma, so much difficulty that we've all gone through. We could all use a little bit of resilience. You know, I had a friend once tell me, he says, Matt, there's nothing wrong with getting therapy. I think everybody needs therapy, regardless of where you're at in life. Who couldn't use someone to just sit down with and hash things out that are going on? Well, Kristina can do that with you. She's also specially trained in some incredible techniques. We're going to be talking about those today. She's got her degrees from Cal State Northridge and Pepperdine University and practices right here in Valencia. She's actually started seeing patients one-on-one again, and also she's still offering the telehelp option, so whichever works best for you. She's ready to help you address your needs. She's got more than 18 years of speaking experience and has worked closely with medical professionals, organizations, patients, schools. She's worked with parents, couples. She specializes in her work with teens. Kristina, good morning. Welcome in. Thanks for getting up a little early for us today.
Good morning.
You know, I was ready to just announce your new time slot today, and then we had to bump you up to 9 a.m. because the mayor had an early phone call today. So thanks for joining us early. We appreciate it.
Of course.
So, Kristina, we had you on Monday, and you have mentioned, as we've talked about trauma, and we've talked about depression, and we've talked about anxiety and things like that, we talked a lot about talk therapy. We've talked about talk. And you told us a couple weeks ago that talk therapy doesn't work for everybody. And there are some people that just say, yeah, you know, I know what my problems are. I know what my issues are, and talking about it doesn't really help. Or maybe it helps, but it just doesn't get me all the way to the finish line. And you said you use a technique called EMDR therapy that actually doesn't help with the symptoms. It actually helps eliminate the problems. You shared on Monday, and what I likened it to was defragmenting our hard drive, getting our memories and our thoughts kind of resorted and I guess, if you will, perspective placed on them. You talked about 8 steps in EMDR therapy. Can you tell us a little bit about what those 8 steps are, and do they look the same with every patient?
Yes. Okay. Great question. So, real quick, you had mentioned that EMDR doesn't help with symptoms. It actually does. It targets the core cause, the symptoms, and then any future instances that might trigger the problem again.
Wow.
So it is an 8-phase approach, and it's a 3-pronged approach in which we address past, present, and future. So as I talked about before, the governing theory of EMDR is that memory is the core of health and pathology. So it helps with experiences in life rooted in memory. It does not eliminate organic problems, but oftentimes there's overlap between the two, memories and organic problems. Okay. So it is an 8-phase approach. So the first phase is sort of taking an inventory of what the symptoms are, what the past events were that contribute to the symptoms, and we don't need to identify every single symptom or every single past memory. We just need a general high-level overview, like, hey, we're making a table of contents for our PowerPoint presentation. And so I usually start with like a top 10 list in that phase 1.
Okay.
And that pretty much looks the same for everyone, unless you are coming in crisis where you're actively suicidal or have been recently suicidal. Then we have to kind of pause on phase 1 and go to phase 2. So phase 2 is all about what we call installing resources. So getting you to tolerate feeling calm. When we experience trauma, it actually can be hard for the body to allow calmness to be present, because we feel like, no, I don't want to calm down because I'm waiting for the next, thing in 2020 to happen. So
you got to stay on your guard.
Right.
That's interesting.
It's like, be ready so you never have to get ready.
Right.
And so that's sort of a hallmark of a trauma experience. And the problem is that it can do the opposite for us if it's left on for too long. So just like sometimes we need to reboot our computer or hard reset our phone, we need to do that to our central nervous system so that we can more appropriately discern between incoming threats, so that we can know the difference between a bear and an ant. And when we're on for too long, we lose that ability. And then once the clients master that ability to shift state and go to a place of calm and have an arsenal of resources to utilize, then we repeat phases 3 through 8 over and over in our treatment. So what it is phase 3 is picking one of those targets that we identified in phase 1 and mapping it out. So for example, let's say one of the things was a car accident. So you pick the sensory data, the images, the sounds, the physical sensations, the negative beliefs, I'm not safe, or I'm not in control, the emotions, panic, fear, anxiety, sadness, whatever it is, and then where you feel that in your body. So maybe you feel an increased heart rate. Then we administer what the stereotypical EMDR that everyone thinks of. That's the bilateral movement. So that can either be with eye movements or holding little vibrating pulsars in your hand, or you can do butterfly tapping. And then I ask you to focus on different pieces of those components from phase 3 throughout the reprocessing, and I monitor you to see what content's moving, where you're getting stuck. Once we get that down to a 0 level of distress, then we replace the negative belief with a positive belief. So for example, it's over, I'm safe now, or I can learn from it, or I am strong, whatever is relevant to the target we're working on. We get that belief up to 100%. Then phase 6 is reevaluating the body to see if there's anything left, getting rid of it. Phase 7 is closure. So we sort of more like, okay, let's process what we did today, talk about what was that like, let's imagine putting that in a jar, closing that jar and keeping it in my file cabinet for our next session. And then phase 8 is reevaluation, where we're, constantly monitoring the progress of the different targets that we're working on and knowing, hey, are they really closed out? And, and if they are, then great, we move on. If not, then we fix what's not closed out.
Okay, so now if I have multiple traumas, is this something that then we would cycle back through? And like you said, we dealt with that car accident, and then we go back through and go back up to step 3 and go through one of my other traumas?
Yes. So because of generalized learning, we don't have to go through the same of every event. So like,
Okay.
let's say you've been in 10 car accidents of your life. You pick the earliest and you pick the worst. And the brain should generalize. Now, for some reason, your brain might think, okay, well, that time that I got in that accident with the red car, something sticks out about that. So sometimes it won't generalize, but generally it does generalize, that you don't have to go through every single memory. You don't have to talk about it in depth. You just need the sort of the titles to the PowerPoint slides as opposed to all the details in the PowerPoint slides. And yeah, so when we have multiple traumas, we order things chronologically and we move in chronological order because that helps create a filing system and gives an emotional algorithm for dealing with all future experiences.
This sounds a little bit complex. I was following you really closely until about step 3 or 4, and then it started getting really, there's a lot of balls in the air in my mind. Now, obviously, you and I haven't gone through, or we just started going through this. I'm imagining that as a therapist, this requires a tremendous amount of training and practice, correct?
Absolutely. It's very complex, and especially when I can work with people who have a simple phobia or people who have dissociative identity disorder, borderline personality disorder. So I see every range in my practice, and it's taken me years. Like, it took me years to be a licensed marriage and family therapist, and then beyond that, it took me years to develop this specialty and to really master it.
Yeah, it's interesting when you were talking about how we need to install resources, learn to tolerate calm. I've been working with kids and teenagers for 25 years, Christine, as a teacher, and I started identifying different kids in my career that, that was the issue. They're dealing with so much trauma that they're not able to handle the calm. I'm thinking of individual kids right now. I can see their faces, and I know their first and last name of kids that, gosh, this information would have been so helpful for me had I known, back when they were in my class. There are people that struggle to tolerate that calm. Like you said, they're constantly on that heightened sense of defensiveness. So proud of our community, like you said, law enforcement, leadership, and the protesters as well. I think we can all agree, whether you agree with whatever the demonstration may be that's taking place, this one or the Open the Economy demonstration or any one of the numerous demonstrations we've had over the last few years, regardless of whether or not you agree with them, as long as we keep it peaceful and purposeful, it's a good thing. It's a good thing for our city. It's a good thing for America. Mr. Mayor, have you spoken with the leaders of the Black Lives Matter movement here in our community or any of the other protests? Have you had any of that dialogue that they seem to push for? And quite frankly, it seems like our national community needs so badly. Have you spoken with anybody?
So I think that was part of the challenge, particularly with the protests of last week, excuse me, was that there really was not a identified leader, organizer. Last Thursday there were two different protests planned. They ended up converging, but I think that led to a little bit of the difficulty because there didn't seem to be one specific person or group that were moving and organizing the event. So now that being said, yesterday I did go out and speak to several of the students predominantly that were out protesting in front of City Hall and spoke with them. And I am meeting today with an additional group of probably about 10 or so, whether they were organizers or participants in the movement, and so I'll be meeting with them this afternoon as well. So I think last week was important for people to have the ability to voice their frustration, their anger, their disappointment, all justifiably, but this week is now, you can feel the energy has changed, and people are more willing to now sit down and start talking about solutions. And I think it was important for last week to let the protests play out as they needed to, and now as we've moved into another phase, into the solution phase, I think I'm looking forward to being involved and working with the community to start making those changes here in Santa Clarita.
Gosh, we could have kept Kristina on from last segment. She's a licensed marriage and family therapist. I think that's part of kind of the natural cycle when you get hit with something that's that traumatizing, like the killing of George Floyd that we saw on live news just a couple weeks ago. The shock, the anger, the outrage is certainly there. And then once we get beyond that, we're faced with that decision of, okay, we expressed our shock and anger. Are we going to now get back to business as usual, or are we going to move towards meaningful, lasting change? Looks like the movement is definitely going for the latter, for the sustained, meaningful change. You mentioned that you met with a group yesterday. You're meeting with another group today. Can you tell our listeners what you're hoping to discuss? Is this a meeting where you plan to listen to their concerns? Are you going to share some of your own ideas? What do you see the course of that meeting taking?
Sure. I think it's a good opportunity to help everybody start from a kind of a baseline of information to the best we can. One of the questions is about law enforcement and funding, and I don't think everybody understands how our city budget works, how our law enforcement is implemented, and how much do we spend on law enforcement versus other programs. And I think that's an opportunity to talk about, to share with them that information. But I also want to listen. I understand that my experiences in Santa Clarita, particularly growing up, are different. My experience experiences as a student at Hart High School, 30-some years ago is different than what the students at Hart High School and others are experiencing now. And I think that's important, as well for those of us that are in positions of decision making. Need to have and need to be willing to hear from all sides and try to develop policies, based on all the information. So I hope it's the start of a long conversation. Obviously, I don't expect to have any kind of anything solved after a 1-hour meeting at City Hall, but I think it's time to start that discussion and start moving in that direction.
I think you're absolutely right. These aren't issues that are going to be solved in an afternoon or even a week or a couple of weeks, but we appreciate you being open to listen to the different perspectives in and around our community. And you recognized it last night as well, that our community is a vastly different community than it was when you and I grew up. And it's important to listen, so thank you for that. You mentioned last night as well that you've announced plans to, along with Dr. Sharice Moore of the William S. Hart School Board, propose roundtable discussion, reactivating the Human Relations Task Force that we had here in our city years ago. Have you and Dr. Moore discussed the details of that? What do you expect, who do you expect to participate in that, and what are your plans for that roundtable?
Sure. So, as I mentioned at the meeting last night, after the first protest 2 Saturdays ago, Dr. Moore gave me a call and started having that conversation about how, and what we can do here in Santa Clarita. And I very much appreciated, her leadership and willingness to step into that role and to start providing some guidance and direction. And so she and I have been talking pretty regularly over the last 10 days or so, and we came up with the idea again of reactivating the Human Relations Task Force that the city had implemented in the early 90s as a way to provide a forum, if you will, a organization, a structure where we can start looking at what can we do better here in Santa Clarita? How can we incorporate the diversity and the growing diversity in our community? And so we thought it made sense for it to be a joint city Hart District operation, if you will, because when you look at the demographics, if you will, of the protesters, it was overwhelmingly young people, and quite frankly, there were a number of students from the Hart District that were participating, and I think it's important that the school districts have a role. And so, I think as I look at our Santa Clarita Homeless Community Task Force, I think that's a pretty good template in that there are so many organizations represented on that homeless task force, from the business community, schools, nonprofits, faith-based organizations, law enforcement, and so I think we need to do the same with this roundtable. But I think the ultimate goal is for this to be a long-term, long-standing body that will be in place well after Dr. Moore and I have left public office, and will be continued on by future councils, future school boards. But I think we have just gotten the first step, which was the council to buy in and to approve. Tonight, Dr. Moore is bringing it up to the Hart Board for a similar approval there. And then once that has happened, I think our city manager and superintendent and others will start talking together about what does the structure look like. And so I hope to hear back at the next council meeting with some ideas. and have those being presented to the council and again and the HART board. But we want this to be a very real organization, very real task force or roundtable, whatever we want to call it, that meets regularly, develops policies, sets events. So one of the ideas that Dr. Moore brought up, for example, is that in Santa Clarita we don't do anything around Dr. Martin Luther King's birthday, and so we should. And so let's talk about, do we do a day of service, Dr. King's Day of Service, or something like that again brings attention and allows for education and communication and all those things that are important to solve, to help move us forward.
Fantastic. That's going to be an important collaboration. And like you said, it's going to be a marathon, not a sprint. And as such, we need to stop and take a quick water break. Are you able to stick around after the commercial?
Sure. I was just going to say it's more of a relay race, right? Because we're going to keep handing it off to other people over, But yes, I'm happy to stick around.
Very good. We're going to take a quick commercial break. You're listening to SCVi Charter Schools Eye on the Valley with Mayor Cameron Smythe this morning. I'm your host, Matt Watson, on your hometown station, KHTS.
Yes, Dunkin' is open. The continued stay-at-home orders have been rough on all of us, but Dunkin' is trying to make things just a little bit better. There are many ways to get your Dunkin' fix. You can carry out at both locations, or you can drive through at Canyon Country, or get curbside service at the Bouquet Canyon Dunkin'. Both offer Grubhub and Postmates delivery and are open till 6 p.m. Don't forget, use your Dunkin' app for on the go to order, pay, and accumulate points. Dunkin' cares about the SCV.
Great healthcare just got easier and more convenient in Canyon Country. Facey Canyon Country is now open directly off the Soledad Canyon exit off the 14 freeway. The 37,000 square foot clinic houses Facey Medical Group primary care physicians, pediatricians, and specialists. Facey has easy 24/7 online appointment scheduling for PCPs and PEDS. For more information or to make an appointment, visit facey.com. That's FACEY.com.
Your building sign is essential to getting customers to your location. Feathers can help you get your business noticed. Feathers, now in a new, larger space with plenty of parking. They walk you through each phase of your project with special attention to detail and quality. Feathers will provide you with a sign that you can be proud of. Your sign will draw customers in instead of having them drive by. Visit Feathers online at feathersigns.com or go to Feathers' brand new, bigger location at 26017 Huntington Drive off Rye Canyon or call 298-9442.
This is Suzette Martinez Valadares. Many child care centers are closed due to the COVID-19 pandemic. The child care providers that are open are serving our essential workforce and finding it very difficult to find or purchase the supplies needed to keep their facilities clean and children healthy. Our healthcare professionals are fighting to save lives. First responders and law enforcement are bravely serving our community, and our grocery store clerks are keeping our local markets stocked. This is our chance to help them. This is why we are launching Operation Child Care. Our mission is to collect donations for local early childhood education providers serving our frontline essential workforce. Donations needed include hand sanitizer, disinfectant wipes, disinfectant spray, disposable gloves, and masks. These donations can be dropped off at KHTS Radio, located at 24320 Main Street in Newhall, from 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. Monday through Friday.
It's no wonder people love Baskin-Robbins. 31 delicious flavors of ice cream. Celebrate with your favorite ice cream served any way you want, including the special flavor of the month. Baskin-Robbins, now open on Lyons Avenue in Newhall under new Santa Clarita family ownership, is the first Southern California hybrid design store for Baskin-Robbins and the oldest location in Santa Clarita, over 45 years. America's favorite neighborhood ice cream shop is just one scoop away. Baskin-Robbins, the perfect dessert for your next celebration.
Hometown, your hometown station.
Welcome back. You're listening to KHTS, your hometown station, 98.1 FM and 1220 AM. This is Matt Watson, and you're listening to Eye on the Valley, Homeschooling Answers. We're talking this morning with Santa Clarita Mayor Cameron Smythe. Mayor Smythe, we appreciate, as we do every week, your your time with us and your willingness to not only answer our questions, but then also take questions from the listeners. We've got a couple that are coming in right now. Listener Tony asks, what do you make of the recent COVID spikes in Arizona, Nevada, Utah? What can we learn from this? This is something that I, too, have had a question about, obviously, with the protests, the reopening of the economy. We've seen that Arizona, Nevada, Utah were actually a little bit ahead of us. Mr. Mayor, what do you make of the spikes there in those states?
Well, I think that's not to be unexpected as lockdowns are been released, have been as states and communities have opened up and there's more interpersonal interaction, and certainly the protests across the country are allowed for very close personal interaction throughout the country. So I think that is something to watch. But what's still most critical is not necessarily the number of cases, but to the severity of them.
Okay.
Are we seeing hospitalizations? Are we seeing ICUs increases? I was just reading something this morning about, while in Arizona there has been an increase of use in the ER and hospitals. Most of it is actually for non-COVID related conditions or causes, which is a indicator that people are going back to using the hospital, back to the ER for non-COVID related needs, which I think is a positive sign in that regard. But certainly, I think we're all watching the next couple of weeks as the incubation period works its way through, given all of the activity with the protests, because we didn't really have a phased. It wasn't really a phased reopening at that point, right? Once the protest popped, it was 0 to 100 in terms of interaction. So again, I think what's critical for us, specifically to Santa Clarita, is are those numbers about hospitalizations and those that are in the ICU and the severity of the cases, not necessarily just the raw number of cases. There is a role for that to play, but at this point, Santa Clarita still is in a good position to handle the number of cases we're having with our medical services, and certainly we're going to be watching the next 7 to 10 days will probably be pretty critical.
Yeah, definitely, and it gives me a great opportunity to promote tomorrow's show. We're going to be talking to Dr. Tracy Lawrence from Henry Mayo, and he's going to be sharing what they're seeing there at the hospital. Now, as you talked about the roundtable forum that you and Dr. Moore are going to be putting together, that you mentioned, it's your hope that carries on for several years, decades moving forward here in Santa Clarita. A couple of our listeners asked, in fact, Renee Marshall, who's going to be our guest in hour number 2, as well as listener David, asked how they can get involved in this task force. Do you have any details on how listeners might get involved?
We're still obviously just very early. Technically, it hasn't even been approved yet because the Heart District still has to sign off tonight. But I think that's going to be a part of our very first meetings, and our top priorities is how do we determine who is going to serve on the board? What does the structure look like? Is there an executive board and then the general membership? So I think that those are some of the details that are very important that need to be developed and worked out. Unfortunately, we have both at the city and at the Heart District, I think, professionals who know how to create these work groups and to get them most effective. But in my mind, I think probably our very first event, if you will, very first action is probably to create kind of a community forum that'll be probably be pretty large in attendance to give the public the opportunity to speak and to share their experiences here in Santa Clarita, and for us as an association or as a task force to start receiving that type of input and using it to build out the plans. And so I don't have specifics to that yet, but fortunately we have professionals, again, both at the city and the Heart District that know how to put these together to make them as effective as possible.
Yeah, so we'll look for.
So I would say. So I guess I know it's kind of a long way to say. Still working on it. Still have steps to go, but we just wanted to get the approvals from our colleagues on the board and at the council to start building out that framework.
Sure. So we'll look forward to details as they continue to roll out, and we'll keep listeners posted. I'm sure we'll be talking about it in the weeks to come. Now, one of the questions I wanted. I'm sorry. Was there something else? Okay. One of the questions that I wanted to ask, there was a lot of discussion at last night's city council meeting about the implementation of curfews. As you know, LA County implemented a curfew for a few days, especially following the violence that they experienced in Hollywood, in and around the Grove, Santa Monica, things like that. And then in anticipation of so many people's concerns last Thursday, you and the city council issued an order for a 6 p.m. curfew last Thursday. And then at about 4 p.m., that curfew had been lifted, indicating that because the demonstrations had been peaceful, you were rescinding the curfew. Can you tell me talk me through both of those decisions. What prompted the initial implementation of the curfew, and then what prompted its rescission at 4 p.m. that same day?
Sure. So, specific to Thursday, LA County had a countywide curfew on Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. There had already been established countywide, so that was going to encompass Santa Clarita. And what cities do have the ability to implement an earlier curfew, if you will, very similar to the COVID discussions that the county set the baseline for the curfew, and cities can be more restrictive but not less. And so our feeling was, as the county on Thursday still had a curfew initially set for 9 p.m., we felt that given the uncertainty around Thursday, that keeping the 6 p.m. curfew was appropriate because that is what it had been Tuesday and Wednesday. And so we felt keeping the 6 p.m. curfew made sense. But as the day progressed, we saw LA County eliminating their curfew altogether for Thursday. Two, the nature of our protests were very peaceful in nature. Many of the protesters had begun to leave by 4 o'clock, and quite frankly, we did receive a letter from the ACLU, and when putting together all the totality of evidence, the county had pulled their curfew, the protests were peaceful and dissipating, and the concerns raised by the ACLU, it made sense for us to rescind the curfew. And I think that that's appropriate, to have the ability to make decisions based on real-time data, what we're seeing on the ground. We do that with traffic around the protests. We're able to monitor and determine when we would be able to reopen streets, and trying to do that in real time. And I think that was the decision we made with the curfew, that we felt with all that evidence, it was the right thing to do to pull it after and then remove it altogether.
Okay, there's a kind of a follow-up question that just came in from one of our listeners. It said, why did you cancel the curfew after a harmful device had been found by the bomb squad? It was
again. So again, the device was deemed not harmful, and that was addressed relatively early on in the protests. I want to say that was found, at 1:30, 2 o'clock, and it was determined that it was not an issue. The concerns raised about other counter protesters and the potential of violence. By the time we got to the 4 o'clock, 4 hours in, we had pretty good data of, again, what was actually happening on the ground, and we were able to use that to inform our decision. And fortunately, we made that decision proved to be the right one. There was no activity in the evening, no threats, no damage, no destruction, and so it was it proved out to be the right call.
Yeah, definitely. And, at this point, I just want to take a moment to maybe editorialize, if you will, and issue a statement of my own opinion. These days have not been easy for you or the City Council. Mayor Smythe, I'd like to thank you for your words at yesterday's City Council meeting. You took a hard stance against racism in all its forms with absolutely no qualifications. You declared your intent to actively listen to understand all of the voices in our community, and you testified to our community's strength now and going forward, given the spectacular caliber of our young people in Santa Clarita. Sir, your leadership in a year like we've never before seen has been unparalleled, and I want to thank you. Mayor Smythe, be well, and we will talk to you next week.
Sounds great. Thanks, man. Appreciate the words.
Of course. It's time for us to take another commercial break. Not sure if we're checking in on national news or not.
So we're going to get right back into national news. We're going to pay some bills, so our clocks are going to be a little different this hour, but that's okay. We'll probably be back right about 10:14.
And when we come back, we're going to be talking to educational consultant Renee Marshall. Parents, you're going to want to hear what she has to say. She's going to be sharing what school's going to be looking like in the fall. You're listening to SCVi Charter Schools Eye on the Valley, Homeschooling Answers with your host, Matt Watson, on your hometown station, KHTS.
Repeatedly returning to his former office without authorization. Democrats are firing back, releasing a transcript of Lennox's recent testimony, saying if State Department officials want to refute Mr. Lennox's account, they can do so as the committees have requested, under the same questioning that Mr. Lennox voluntarily faced. Rachel Sutherland, Fox News.
Secretary of State Mike Pompeo calls Lennox a bad apple, accusing him of undermining the State Department's mission. Lennox claims he was pressured to drop his probe of the arms sales and requested an interview with Pompeo, but never got a response. Warnings of dire and long-lasting consequences in an international economic report on coronavirus.
The OECD, Club of Rich Countries, saying the world is facing its biggest economic downturn in peacetime for a century.
It's simply the most severe any of us have ever witnessed.
Secretary General Angel Gurria predicting the global economy will shrink by 6% this year.
It's larger by far than any we have projected in the 60 years since the OECD was created.
The OECD also forecasting a bounce back next year, but only if the outbreak is kept under control. In London, Simon Owen, Fox News.
A slide on Wall Street, the Dow's been down over 100 points. I'm Lisa Brady, and this is Fox News.
Thanks for listening to KHTS AM 1220, Canyon Country, California. K260CO 98.1 FM, Santa Clarita, California.
Lots of people can build websites, but there's one Santa Clarita company that specializes in designing websites for your business. Small Dog Creative. The Small Dog Creative team is made up of local designers who are hands-on. Their talented team of experts build premium websites and redefine branding. Small Dog Creative doesn't just build websites. They'll upgrade your business's online presence and turn your business into a powerful online brand. Small Dog Creative, Santa Clarita's most innovative web and design company. SmallDogCreative.com.
And now a word from Dr. Pilecki.
Could taking ibuprofen actually increase your risk for coronavirus? France's Minister of Health thinks so, and so does the British Medical Journal, stating that taking anti-inflammatory drugs could aggravate the infection. Jean-Louis Monstron, professor of pharmacology, Central University Toulouse, said that the corona-boosting effects of ibuprofen are no surprise. And Paul Little, professor of primary care research, University of Southampton, said that complications of respiratory infections are more common when anti-inflammatory drugs are used, citing 2 randomized controlled studies where ibuprofen resulted in more serious illness. Ian Jones, professor of virology, University of Reading, said that the anti-inflammatory properties of ibuprofen dampens the immune system, interfering with the patient's recovery. In fact, all anti-inflammatory medications block prostaglandins, which, while are inflammatory, also play a critical role in a healthy immune response. And it's the inhibition of this healthy kind of inflammation that causes the majority of severe side effects of all anti-inflammatory medication. Now we can see that certain kinds of inflammation are actually good for you, especially when fighting infection. Fevers under 101 lasting less than 24 hours should be considered a healthy immune response. Of course, follow all CDC recommendations for safety when dealing with coronavirus. And if you want to reduce your risks even more, you can download my free Healthy Living COVID-19 program at drpilecki.com and on the KHTS Coronavirus Experts page.
There's a very good reason Embrace Your Smile has been voted Santa Clarita's #1 orthodontist for 10 years in a row.
Honestly, it's our team.
Dr. Megan LeCornu.
I think for me, what makes it stand out is when I have patients that come up to me and say, we have never been in a doctor's office that feels like this. Our team is a family, and we really get along, and we are really passionate about what we do, helping our patients get the smiles they want and deserve.
Dr. Megan LeCornu of Embrace Your Smile Orthodontics.
Embrace your smile.
EmbraceYourSmile.com.
Dutton Plumbing, it's Eric.
Son, it's Mother.
Hi, Mom.
I wanted you to know that Eunice, my neighbor, the one with the limp and the slight mustache, she said a lot of her friends have been clipping your drain clearing special coupon out of the paper, especially the ladies in her Wednesday night bingo club.
The Wednesday night bingo club?
Yep, they all go out for Mexican food every Wednesday night, and at about 2 a.m., bingo.
Well, I think all they need is Mom's famous $73 drain clearing. You know, it flows or it's free with a money-back guarantee. In fact, they can schedule service right off our website at DuttonPlumbing.com and use our free live chat.
So they can use the interwebs to find you? Just like that funny dating site Eunice showed me last week.
Yikes. DuttonPlumbing.com.
Order Mom's $73 drain clearing. It flows or it's free with a money-back guarantee. Get service and find discount service coupons 24/7 at DuttonPlumbing.com.
Hi, I'm Eric Goldhurst, Head of Operations for Burger King North America. Throughout this time, we've taken steps to take care of our guests.
And since we know many of your jobs have been affected by this crisis,
we want to help make sure you're taken care of too.
If you are looking for work, we are hiring.
And there's a spot on our team for you.
We know that we'll get through this together, as long as we keep taking care of each other.
For more information, call 253-3283. That's 253-3283.
Beep, 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 beep. Go!
Hey there, it's Tori with your hometown station weather. Bit of a heat wave with sunny skies today and highs in the upper 90s. Overnight lows in the low 70s. For anything and everything Santa Clarita Valley related, go to hometownstation.com or check us out on Facebook at KHTS Radio.
98.1 FM and AM 1220.
Finding the right lawyer can be a challenge, but in Santa Clarita, there's no need to search when there's Hacker Law Group, Santa Clarita's premier litigation firm. Jeffrey Hacker has represented celebrities, financial institutions, accident victims, real estate developers, realtors, contractors, businesses, nonprofit organizations, and other individuals and companies with their legal challenges. Mr. Hacker is one of Santa Clarita's leaders, consistently listed as one of our most influential. When everything is on the line and you need legal counseling, visit hackerlawgroup.com.
You see so much when you look at your child.
a creative spirit that surprises you every day, curiosity that develops into exploring unique passions, a little leader growing every day to discover who they are, what they love, and how they can make their mark on the world. At SCVi, we see those same amazing things. Our tuition-free K-12 charter school gives your child boundless opportunities to think critically and imagine freely, with a customized learning program built around each individual student. As iLEAD's founding school, SCVi combines an immersive approach to traditional subject learning with extracurricular activities including STEAM, robotics, theater, music, and sports. SCVi has the only international baccalaureate program in Santa Clarita, with a 10-year proven track record of graduates excelling at top universities. And we're in your backyard, just off the 5 freeway in West Santa Clarita Valley in Castaic. For enrollment information or to learn more about our program, including homeschool options, visit iLeadSantaClarita.org. iLEAD Schools, free to think, inspired to lead.
This is Bradley Gross from Santa Clarita Grocery. Santa Clarita Grocery serves fresh groceries to families, individuals, and those experiencing homelessness. At Santa Clarita Grocery, out of every dollar donated, a full 99 cents goes directly to the needs being addressed. As an all-volunteer-led organization, we operate on a 1% overhead, receiving no government funding for our operations in the community, resulting in us being one of the most efficient charities in the Santa Clarita Valley. If you're looking to support the good for our community, please consider partnering with us by donating to Santa Clarita Grocery. What is donated is specifically kept in the Santa Clarita Valley, helping over 3,000 families, including 5 other community charities. Please visit our website, santaclaritagrocery.org, or visit us on social media or call us at 425-7575. That's 425-7575.
The following is sponsored programming and does not necessarily reflect the views or opinions of KHTS or its ownership.
Welcome back. You're listening to KHTS, your hometown station, 98.1 FM and 1220 AM. This is Matt Watson, your host. You're listening to Eye on the Valley, Homeschooling Answers, brought to you by SCVi and iLEAD Charter Schools. I'm joined now by educational consultant Renee Marshall. Renee has quickly become renowned across the state of California for her deep understanding of a myriad of educational topics. She received her bachelor's degree in psychology and her master's in elementary education and teaching from UC Santa Cruz. She then went on to earn an additional master's in educational leadership and administration from CSUN. Renee has been recognized with an Outstanding Educator Award, the PTA Golden Apple Service Award, the Santa Clarita Valley Mothers of Multiples Heart Award. She's been recognized as one of Santa Clarita Valley's 40 under 40, and those of you that know what a distinguishing award that is, you know that that's quite a big deal here in our valley. She's also been recognized as Castaic Middle School's Teacher of the Month. She's received a PTA Service Award and was named Castaic Union School District's Teacher of the Month as well. She's worked with the Santa Clarita Valley Education Foundation, California Community College Teacher Preparation Programs, and locally at College of the Canyons. Welcome, Renee. Thanks so much for joining us today.
Thanks so much, Matt. I appreciate being able to be on the call today.
Of course. Renee, the reason we asked you to join us is because, A, you've got tremendous educational perspective. You really do have a broad view of what's going on in education in California. And then, you're not really beholden to kind of any group or organization. Like I mentioned, you work for yourself, so you're able to speak openly and honestly about what education is going to look like moving into next school year. State Superintendent Tony Thurman and the California Department of Public Health issued the guidelines for schools to reopen, well, starting this summer and then moving obviously into the fall with the full opening of schools. Can you talk to us about the guidelines that they issued?
Absolutely. We have been waiting for these guidelines to come out, everybody in the education field, just kind of looking how things are going to look moving forward. We are in uncharted territory, and it's a really different time in education. I do want to point out, though, I think it's a great time. Like, I know things are different right now, and I know when things are different, there's fear and anxiety because stuff is unknown. But today during this show, we want to break it down in simple terms of what these guidelines look like and start the conversation. And that's something that our superintendent, Tony Thurman, has said very explicitly within this guiding document. This is the beginning of the conversation, not the end. And one of the things I want people to know that I think is really important, first of all, everything Department of Education does is transparent. You can they've done over 30 webinars since we shut down in March, trying to help teachers and administrators in terms of getting on board with distance learning and what it looks like, and making sure that they're filling all the gaps that are becoming more and more apparent as we move on with this model. And so I just want to say, though, I think it's like this is a time for something new. We've been waiting in education for a revolution to come along, and right now our whole system is so shaken up. This is really a good thing. It's needed. So I know it's a time of uncertainty, but know that moving forward, our education leaders in our state are working very closely with every essential health agency throughout the state of California to make sure that our students and that our educators are safe. That is the top priority. And when they're talking safety, Matt, they're not just talking about the physical safety, but there's a huge emphasis throughout this guideline and throughout this document that's talking about mental health and well-being of our students and our staff in education. So we're really looking at safety in a broad lens.
Right. That's good news that we're looking at kind of the whole student, not just what the typical student needs, without looking at kids with diverse needs. So what's it going to look like next year? Is it just going to be classes as usual? You mentioned there's going to be a lot of shifts, and we have needed it for a long time. What are some of the specific guidelines that the state's issuing?
Well, first off, too, just to note, these are just guidance recommendations. Mm-hmm. All decisions will have to be made at the local level. And I want to encourage parents and people in our community to advocate for their voice and what they believe is right in education for our students. But I also do want to just make a point that as these decisions are being made locally by our local education agencies or our LEAs, it's so important that we support them as they're moving forward. There are going to be some decisions that they will be allowed to make that they will be able to have a clear pathway for. And then there will be other decisions that we may disagree with, but if the health agencies are telling them that's how we need to move forward, they will have some places where their hands will be tied. But I think it's essential to know that parent voice and community voice and advocacy, this is a great time if you want your voice to be heard, because this is something new that we've never done before. So, okay, going into a couple basics, Matt. First of all, we mentioned already, safety is the top priority, looking at both the physical and mental health of safety. We're also talking about the education of 6.2 million students across the state of California. So that's important. One of the things I want to be explicit with, there are no mandates in this document. This is a guidance document. Right. This is a document that every single parent in Santa Clarita Valley should go to the Department of Education and print it. I literally printed the 55 pages and took notes and took questions, and I'm going to find out more answers about it. So this is a chance for us to start our conversation. Another point to note, this guide may be changed as new data comes and becomes relevant. So just know that this is a document and a guidance document, but it has the potential to be a working document, okay?
You know, it's interesting that you mentioned that, Renee, because I know a lot of health organizations and governmental entities have really taken a tremendous amount of criticism for what people are saying, contradicting themselves, changing their minds.
Absolutely.
It's because this is a whole new ballgame, and data is changing. Our understanding of how this virus works is changing, and so it's necessary for us to change and adapt as well.
This is my first pandemic, Matt, so this is all totally new to me.
You and me both.
It's fascinating how many people have so much information that they believe of how it should be done. Don't get me wrong, like, I'm an educator and I want to believe that my voice is a powerful voice, but when it comes down to it, I need to know what the nurses and doctors and the health science professionals say to make sure that it's safe moving forward. So it really needs to be a blend of all of us coming together as a community to say, what do our students need and what are we going to prioritize? Here's some of the great things. First of all, within the districts and what we're allowed to do, we're going to be allowed to still determine our own calendar. We're going to be able, as a district or as schools, to figure out what we can accommodate. We're going to say distance learning is not mandatory. Here's multiple models. one of the things that's so exciting about this document, they present multiple models of how this could run come fall. Plus, another thing with this, too, is this document gives so many tips about little things. Like, for instance, if you're an educator and you're on the line right now, we need to work on the board policy paperwork that's related to what fall is going to look like, and we need to do it now. So if you have any memorandums of understanding or any sort of kind of agreement, now is the time to be kind of having those discussions. The best part about all of this, too, what's happening right now, this revolution is going to be like an eye-opening in terms of equity. The moment we went to digital, the moment we went to distance learning, we learned very quickly as a state that there is an absolute digital divide. Yes. There's the haves and the have-nots when it comes to access and when it comes to technology. And so as hard as this has been, man, what a beautiful vehicle for striving for equity and making sure every single kid in Santa Clarita is getting access to the same quality education. I don't care if you're in general ed, special ed, whatever program you're in, we want to make sure that your child is having their needs met in a physically and emotionally safe environment.
Yeah, definitely. It's interesting that we at iLEAD Schools and a lot of educational leaders have been pushing for this reform, for this revolution for decades, and it's interesting that this teeny tiny little virus comes along and pushes us into where we're going. So I want to clarify. One of our listeners is asking a question specifically about their school district. What will the Newhall School District implement? You said again that that's going to be up to the individual districts to determine. They're going to have the option to implement several different models, which is going to be great for parents and families. They're going to have choice like never before, right?
Absolutely. And I can't speak specifically for Newhall because it's only one of our 5 districts in Santa Clarita, right. And each one will be making their own choices moving forward. But here's a couple things. Expect smaller class sizes. That will absolutely be a necessity. They are requiring that our desks are 6 feet apart. So physically, we will not be able to accommodate face-to-face the same amount of students that we've had in the past. One thing to note, though, too, this rule about desks and spaces being 6 feet apart, there's some looseness with it, though. Okay. And for instance, you have one class where all 30 families want their kids to be face-to-face. We know that we can't fit 30 kids in a traditional classroom size. But if we have that situation in a class, that class could be moved to the NPR, or could be moved to the cafeteria, or could be moved to outdoor coverings, or some sort of... So the way we look at space within education is going to be very different come fall. So things, just anticipate that. Please know that they absolutely are suggesting that all staff have face coverings, and that's per the CDC guidelines. They're also wanting children, depending on the age that they're at. We know that not all ages it's safe for children to have masks, and also depending on if a child has certain special needs or physical needs that make it a problem for them to have the mask on. For instance, if somebody has an extreme case of asthma or something like that, you may be able to get some doctor okays to not do it. But overall, though, we're going to be seeing masks. We're going to be seeing another thing too. Some teachers might not want to do masks, but then they will do a face covering. So that way, like the clear face covering, one of the ideas shield, for right? that, yeah, clear shield, because we want to be able, especially in the grades where we're looking at phonemic awareness, we want to be able for children to see the adults' mouths. And also, this is June. What it looks like come August is going to be very different, okay? So just know that. But what they're saying, we're looking at temperature checks both daily at home and upon entry into school, it would be a thermal temperature check. Kids will be washing and sanitizing their hands all the time with the new rules. One thing that's going to be interesting about it too, in the past we used to either have the children wash in the classroom or send them to the restroom. We are actually going to be looking on ways to limit bathroom use because we know that that's a place that needs to consider consistently be sanitized. And so they're looking at, or they're suggesting within the guidelines that schools come up with ways to have portable hand washing or sanitation stations throughout the campus. So that way you just walk up, almost like when you go to a concert or something. When you go up, you've got the not the porta potties, but you've got the portable washing station there. Sure. You wash your hands and you go. And so that would look a lot different. Imagine now that children are washing their hands when they get to school, when they go to recess, before they have their food, after they have their food, after lunchtime, after bathroom. Any transition will involve washing and sanitizing hands.
And I'd imagine including with middle and high schoolers kind of between classes and things like that, right?
Yes, and that's another thing, too, is we're also going to be looking at how do we minimize movement of space.
Sure.
And that's going to be a little tricky. But within the 4 models that they presented, would you mind if I talked about those just for a minute, Matt? Because I think they're really interesting.
Do you think we can do that when we come back from a commercial break? We got to get the bills paid.
Absolutely.
I know families have a tremendous amount of questions about the things that you haven't covered yet, as well as some of the things that you have. So let's make sure that we continue this conversation. You're listening to SCVi Charter Schools Eye on the Valley, Homeschooling Answers. I'm with Renee Marshall. She's an educational expert who's really examined the guidelines that the state's issuing on how we can reopen schools. Join us as soon as we come back on your hometown station, KHTS.
At the Burrito Factory, their motto has always been to serve quality food with fast, friendly service. But did I mention the taste? When it comes to authentic taste and huge mouth-watering burritos, the Burrito Factory is second to none. Whether it's lunch, dinner, or a catered event, Burrito Factory has the taste of Mexico to satisfy your craving. Burrito Factory on Soledad Canyon Road next to Chi-Chi's Pizza in Canyon Country. Stop in or call ahead 288-0222.
This is Bradley Gross from Santa Clarita Grocery. Santa Clarita Grocery serves fresh groceries to families, individuals, and those experiencing homelessness. At Santa Clarita Grocery, out of every $1 donated, a full 99 cents goes directly to the needs being addressed. As an all-volunteer-led organization, we operate on a 1% overhead, receiving no government funding for our operations in the community, resulting in us being one of the most efficient charities in the Santa Clarita Valley. If you're looking to support the good for our community, please consider partnering with us by donating to Santa Clarita Grocery. What is donated is specifically kept in the Santa Clarita Valley, helping over 3,000 families, including 5 other community charities. Please visit our website, santaclaritagrocery.org, or visit us on social media or call us at 425-7575. That's 425-7575.
Finding the right lawyer can be a challenge, but in Santa Clarita, there's no need to search when there's Hacker Law Group, Santa Clarita's premier litigation firm. Jeffrey Hacker has represented celebrities, financial institutions, accident victims, real estate developers, realtors, contractors, businesses, nonprofit organizations, and other individuals and companies with their legal challenges. Mr. Hacker is one of Santa Clarita's leaders, consistently listed as one of our most influential. When everything is on the line and you need legal counseling, visit hackerlawgroup.com.
Santa Clarita Valley residents now have greater access to the excellent physicians and high-quality medical services for which Providence Holy Cross is known. Providence Holy Cross Health Center in Santa Clarita features state-of-the-art cancer and imaging technologies, as well as board-certified physicians in a variety of medical specialties. Quality and compassion from a healthcare provider you can depend on. For more information, call 1-888-HEALING or visit us at providence.org.
At iLEAD Agua Dulce, we believe the most important thing a child can learn in school is who they are. Life's real tests are never standardized, which is why we've developed an individual-based curriculum that values exploration, cooperation, and creativity. As our learners grow, so do we. Our tuition-free charter school is currently enrolling grades TK through 7th and adding 8th grade in 2020. Your young learner will be immersed in a unique environment where possibility and self-discovery are at the core of every experience. The Agua Dulce campus features beautiful indoor and outdoor spaces for hands-on inspiration, including a robotics lab, a garden bed, a greenhouse, and a technology-based exploratorium. iLEAD Agua Dulce is conveniently located on the east side of the Santa Clarita Valley, just off the 14 freeway. Check out our homeschool options too. To schedule a campus tour or learn more about our programs, visit iLeadAguadulce.org. We're enrolling now. iLEAD Schools. Free to think, inspired to lead.
If you're in danger of losing your home to foreclosure, you need an expert. Hi, I'm Rich Sherman with Alta Realty. I've helped hundreds of Santa Clarita residents save their homes completely for free. I've got just over 20 years experience and a loan modification success rate of over 80%. I can negotiate better terms with your bank and I can save your home from foreclosure. And again, we do this completely for free. So if you're in any danger, please call me today at 661-714-1400. That number again is 661-714-1400. I'm Rich Sherman with Alta Realty, and I'll be happy to help you save your home for free.
Your hometown station.
I love the music, and I always tune in when there's an emergency in Santa Clarita.
98.1 FM and AM 1220. Beep, 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 beep. Go!
Good morning. My name is Shane Cutchell, giving you live traffic updates throughout the 9 and 10 a.m. hours this morning. Let's get right to it. Looking at CHP incident reports, there is nothing to report. Happy to say there. Taking a look at SIG Alert now. Just a little bit of touch and go traffic as you make your way back into the Santa Clarita Valley, coming from the 5 northbound freeway. 5 southbound freeway, also a little bit touch and go traffic as you make your way towards the 405 freeway. A beautiful, completely green drive all the way to the Palmdale and Bakersfield areas. So if you got some driving to do, today is a good day to do it. Now, in just a second, let's take a look at weather.
Traffic brought to you by Frontier Toyota. Frontier Toyota reminds you to drive safely. Shop from home at frontiertoyota.com or visit their showroom on Valencia and Creekside. See their all-new, hot and exciting 2020 Toyota Camry. Frontier Toyota, the Camry Kings.
Temperatures around the valley are going to be, well, pretty hot today. It's currently 86 degrees in Newhall, 86 degrees in Valencia, and 86 degrees in Canyon Country. Highs expected to be right around 100, with the lows cooling back down to about the mid-60s. That's the weather in Newhall around the Santa Clarita Valley. We're going to get right back to the Eye on the Valley show right now.
Hometown, your hometown station.
Welcome back. You're listening to KHTS, your hometown station, 98.1 FM and 1220 AM. This is SCVi Charter School's Eye on the Valley Homeschooling Answers. I am your host, Matt Watson. We're joined this morning by Renee Marshall. She is an expert educator and consultant throughout the state of California. We're talking with Renee about what school's going to look like as we move back on campus. One of the things we were talking about before the break is how the state is providing tremendous flexibility and choice, providing flexibility to what we call LEAs, that is school districts and individual, like SCVi is considered its own LEA. So SCVi's school board is going to be able to make their own decisions as to what campus life is going to look like, obviously under the guidelines. But then beyond that, parents are going to have a tremendous amount of choice, aren't they, Renee?
A huge amount of choice, and there's going to be a lot of options, and that's one thing that's really new about what's going on. But we will see some things that are going to be different than what we've expected. Like, for instance, I'm not sure about you guys, but I've always been a parent that I love being on campus. Even when my kids were in junior high, I would try to find ways to be involved and to help with the PAC or the PTA or in any ways I could, especially for years volunteering in the classroom. That's going to change. For the first time, we're going to see a limit on non-essential volunteers, which will include like what groups are even using our MPR and our facilities on campus. So things are going to look a little different. Also, field trips and intergroup activities, we're going to see things go more virtual, and it's going to be different. But here's one thing I want to point out. I'm watching our comments as people are chiming in, and I want to agree with a couple things that people are talking about. First of all, somebody made a comment about hand sanitizer not being great. I am 100% with you. Hand washing is always best, but as somebody who's taught both preschool and elementary school, and especially has worked with younger children, there are times when you might not have accessibility to hand washing. And so I agree with you that hand sanitizer is not choice A, but it's a nice choice B when you don't have access to that really thorough 20-second hand washing where the kids are fully scrubbing their hands. I also noticed in the chat box that one person said, why is she so excited about this? And I'm sorry if it's coming across. Well, first of all, I'm a positive person. I see this as an opportunity. And as somebody who's an educator in our community, I have been waiting since March 16th for these guidelines to come out, because Department of Education is who guides us in making the proper choices for our students. So So just know that I'm excited because we've been waiting for this guidance, and now we have the time to figure out how do we interpret it, how do we get our community voice involved in this planning process. These are guidelines for planning. These are guidelines where they're saying you have to get the community involved. You have to get stakeholders involved. So it's really essential. So, and they'll be part of the discussing of everything, but then there's going to be certain things that will be off limits and we just need to follow, but then there'll be other flexibility. I'd like to talk for a few minutes, Matt, about the choice for parents in terms of the instructional models. Are you cool if we move into that?
Absolutely, yeah, because parents have different needs, have different concerns. There are some parents that are saying, look, I don't want my kid wearing a mask all day long. There are other parents that are saying, look, my priority is having a place where I can send my child while I go to work every day. So parents have different priorities and need different options. So tell us what different options we're going to have.
Well, and this will be dependent on what the districts choose, but within the guiding document, Stronger Together from Department of Education, they share a couple different models, and these start on page 12 of the document for those of you that want to check into it.
And again, Renee has posted this document in the comments section, so if you're looking to go through this document in detail and really dive into the nuts and bolts of what she's talking about, Renee has posted it there in the comments of our Facebook Live feed. Sorry to cut you off there.
Oh, no, that's perfect. And also, Matt, before we finish talking today, I'll put my email in there. So if at any time people want to contact me directly to have discussions about this, I am all for it. Or how do they advocate in their community or advocate with their district? I'm an education expert who's also a parent in Santa Clarita. I've got 2 kids in our actually, they just graduated junior high. I have twins who are now going to be in high school. So we are part of this discussion. So let's go ahead and look at what these 4 models look like. And I also need to make it known, I'm a working mom too. So I'm also trying to figure out what does childcare look like. And I'm fortunate that my children are older, but I understand that that's a concern. And that's something that absolutely needs to be in the forefront of all the discussions that we're having. So with that in mind, here's a couple things. First of all, they give a couple models and they say these are some examples. You don't have to adapt them, don't have to adopt them, but you might want to. One model is a 2-day rotation blended learning model. And an example of this could be that you have a portion of the school that attends on Monday and Tuesday, and you have the other group of students attend on Wednesday and Thursday, and then Friday becomes a virtual day where everybody is doing distance learning on Friday, and then so it would be 2 days face-to-face and 3 days virtual. That's one option. Another option is the idea of having an A-B week blended learning model, and this would be really kind of a different model where it would be a group of students comes for 1 week, and then like week 1, and then week 2 is a different group. Week 3 is the same group from week 1, and so it's like every other week the kids go to school face-to-face, and then every other week they're in a distance learning model.
So on a week, off a week. Okay.
On a week, off a week, but you're technically on the whole time, but you'd be on a week face-to-face, or on a week on campus, and then off distance learning-wise.
Okay.
Another idea also is the concept of early and late staggered schedules, and I see Bowman High School as an example of that. Bowman has a cohort of students that attend in the morning and a cohort of students that attend in the afternoon, and they're 2 separate cohorts. And so it would be that kind of concept where we have groups that go for part of the day face-to-face. There's sanitation that happens in between. Then the second group comes in, and then a portion of the time they would also be online. So please know that all of these models are looking like they're going to be a combination of some sort. I wish that we were going to be in regular school come fall. Regular school's done.
Yeah.
And that's okay, because it's like, this is the future. And hopefully we'll never have to go through another pandemic. Hopefully this is a temporary stage of education. But if we do, if at any point we need to be a distance learning culture, we're going to be okay. People will continue learning.
Okay.
Another, 2 other things that are talked about that I want to bring up. First of all, there's one concept that they mentioned that I really, really, really strongly advise gets adopted in our Santa Clarita schools, and honestly, schools at a statewide level. But the concept of looping with students. One of the challenges that we know we're going to face, and this is ideally for elementary school ages, just so you know, because you have to be a curriculum specialist in all areas. But the idea is you would loop with those students and they would stay with you. So for instance, if I was teaching 3rd grade in the Newhall district at Newhall Elementary, or actually right now, or just a few days ago, then come fall, I would be with those same students in 4th grade at the same school site in the same district. And so therefore, I would have a good idea of where those students are, what gaps they have, what resources they need. So instead of starting the year with a brand new group, K through 6 or TK through 6, if we could start looping children, which is commonly done already in the iLEAD schools, then that's a structure that they see would be really effective, especially when we're looking at the academic gaps and how do we close those, plus also the social and emotional health of our students.
Yeah, and so you're mentioning these 4 different models that we have, and again, the school districts and the individual charter schools are going to have the option to maybe choose 2 of these, maybe even choose 1 of these, but now is the time for parents to get involved. I know one of our listeners expressed concern that, and I know a lot of parents have the same concern. Well, if we're going to a week in class and then a week virtual, that's not going to work for my schedule. Now's the time to advocate. Now is the time to reach out to your school board and let them know, no, this doesn't work for me, or this is the option that I need for my family, so that they have a good idea. I know our school districts, as well as SCVi and our iLEAD schools, did a great job surveying families, but maybe not all families got back. You need to be speaking with your school board. Get involved. Let them know what works for you and your family, and let them know what doesn't, right?
Absolutely. And I think it's so key. I love that you mentioned the surveys, Matt, because I received a survey from both the district my students are entering next year in fall and the district they just completed with. And I have been explicitly outlining as much as possible in those surveys. I think sometimes people think that surveys are not taken very seriously. I can assure you, especially in our town, surveys are taken with the utmost seriousness, and especially when we're looking at making sure that we're representing the communities, that we're trying to represent. So if you have missed the block of where your district or your school is doing a survey, I would suggest then writing a letter to your superintendent and your board members, because those are the people that make the decisions at the highest level within the districts. And so I just think that's important to note. And those people, they're here for you. If you have an upcoming board meeting come up, why don't you request time so you can be on the agenda, so you can get up and speak? I think sometimes we feel like we don't have power with our voice. I will tell you, I think we are at a pivotal moment where, as parents, we probably have more power than we've ever had. So this is the time to be proactive versus reactive. We have a couple months right now of being proactive. You don't want to wait till fall and then suddenly your school says, here's our plan, and you're angry about it.
Right.
This is the time that they want your voice and your perspective. And keep in mind, these are just guidelines. When you look at this document, there's all sorts of checklists, there's all sorts of things to think about. And I highly suggest for any families that are going to advocate, please make sure that you read this document, the Stronger Together Guidebook from California Department of Education, before you do your advocacy, because you want to know what is coming down from the statewide level.
So, Hart School District families, you've got this afternoon. Read the document. You guys have got a board meeting tonight. It might be a good night for you to at least listen in and hear what they're talking about. And if you're able to make yourself informed enough to go ahead and submit a request to comment, it is very important. And you mentioned that we need to do it ahead of time, Renee. One of the great things that we are living in right now is a time of school choice. Not every school district is going to be able to make every parent in their district happy, and the options that your school district rolls out might not meet your family's needs, but do know your district has the option for you to transfer to a different school district. And I know many families do that. They live, just for example, they may live in the Saugus School District area, but they choose to transfer to Sulphur Springs. That's something that can be arranged. And remember, we've also got charter schools. SCVi is on the west side of our valley, right off of Newhall Ranch Road, and on the east side of our valley, iLEAD Agua Dulce is there, but those schools are going to fill up as well. So now is the time to make yourself informed as to what your school district, what your school specifically is going to be doing. Make sure that meets the needs of your family, and look around. Advocate for yourself. Advocate for your families. Renee, we've got to take another commercial break. Are you able to stick around to the end of the show?
Absolutely. I know we had somebody in the box that was asking in the chat box about junior high and high school. So when we come back, is it okay if we touch upon that?
Absolutely. You are listening to SCVi Charter Schools Eye on the Valley, Homeschooling Answers. I'm with Renee Marshall this morning, and we're talking about what education is going to look like next year. I am Matt Watson on your hometown station, KHTS.
The minute I open my door, Debbie Morris has a problem. I say, oh my gosh. A really big problem. The dog, the cat, my 3-year-old. Debbie's house is a mess. How can one family create this disaster? Debbie needs Made for You. I need help. Professional, residential, and commercial cleaning, locally owned. You choose the schedule, weekly, bi-weekly, monthly, or even one-time seasonal cleaning. Call 255-2922. That's 255-2922. Made for You. Made for You rescued me.
We all know sometimes people lose their way. If you or someone you know is struggling with addiction, the Way Out Recovery SCVi may have the answers you've been waiting for. The Way Out is the premier intensive outpatient treatment center serving Santa Clarita. Asking for help is the first step. Call The Way Out today, 661-296-4444. That's 296-4444 for a private free assessment. The Way Out is an accredited, affordable outpatient program that accepts most insurance. Call us at 661-296-4444. Or check us out online at thewayoutrrecoveryscv.com. Quit battling with yourself. Ask The Way Out for help today.
I'm Matt Denny, CPA, with Denny & Company, LLP, your hometown CPAs. Here are some tips to help you with anxiety you may have about your income tax returns for 2019. The deadlines for filing both state and federal returns have been extended to July 15. Both the state and the feds are also extending the time for making 2019 tax payments otherwise due, without interest or penalty, to July 15. These details keep changing, so contact us at 661-286-8860 or see our website at dennyllp.com.
Aloha, friends. Go check out Honu Coffee, home of the best cold brew coffee. What makes their coffee special is how their organic coffee beans are infused with nitrogen to create a smooth and delicious cup of coffee. You'll also find traditional bold coffees and island-inspired signature drinks. They're the perfect place to catch up with friends or just relax with your favorite cup of joe. Honu Coffee on Lyons and Walnut in Newhall. Stop by and say aloha.
And now for your convenience, a second Honu location at 23502 Lyons Avenue between Peachland and Apple.
Yesterday, December 7th, 1941, a date which will live in infamy.
We salute our veterans who sacrificed for our freedom.
Santa Clarita veteran Bill Reynolds.
Each week, we share an inspirational story of a local veteran on our Hometown Heroes page at hometownstation.com, thanks to our good friends at Eternal Valley.
I'm Richard Nunnally, General Manager of Eternal Valley Memorial Park and Mortuary. We believe taking care of each other is what community is all about. We're proud to bring you the stories of our hometown heroes.
Eternal Valley, life well celebrated. Hometown.
Traffic report, simple news, weather, and lots of music. They pretty much play everything.
Your hometown station. Beep, 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 beep. Go!
Speaking of traffic, speaking of weather, speaking of everything, I have a traffic and weather update for you right now. My name is Shane Cutchell, continuing the traffic updates through our 9 a.m. and 10 a.m. hours, keeping you updated on what's out there on the roads. Taking a look at the CHP incident report at the 14 South and 5 South connector, split, merger, whatever you want to call that area. There's going to be a gray van blocking the number 1 lane, so be prepared to touch on your brakes in that area. Taking a look at SIG Alert now, be advised on the 210 West, there is going to be a work zone right as you're coming up on the 210 and 5 northbound merger. Going to be a little bit of, the right lane is closed there, so a little bit of delays. Again, just tapping on the brakes in that area, nothing too serious. Other than that, a little bit of touch and go traffic right where the 5 and the 14 meet and split in both directions. So be advised for a little bit of a slowdown there. And in just 1 second, we're going to take a look at weather.
Traffic brought to you by Frontier Toyota. Frontier Toyota reminds you to drive safely. Shop from home at frontiertoyota.com or visit their showroom on Valencia and Creekside. See their all-new hot and exciting 2020 Toyota Camry. Frontier Toyota, the Camry Kings.
It's It's going to be another hot day in Santa Clarita, but that's not really news, is it? Current temperatures, Newhall 88 degrees, Valencia 88 degrees, and Canyon Country 88 degrees across the board. We're going to be seeing highs in the 100s across the valley today, lows in the mid-60s tonight. Now let's get right back to the Eye in the Valley show with Matt Watson.
Your hometown station, KHTS.
Welcome back. You're listening to KHTS, your hometown station, 98.1 FM and 1220 AM. This is Matt Watson, and you're listening to SCVi Charter Schools Eye on the Valley, Homeschooling Answers. We are joined this morning by educational expert Renee Marshall. You know, Renee, this hour is just flying by, and I know we've got a lot more to talk about, and there's also a lot of other topics that are affecting our schools and our children right now that you can speak with experience and authority to. I'm hoping that we can get you back on maybe next week or sometime real soon. Before we took the break, you started to mention junior high and high school. You know, I'm looking through this document, and it seems to be very elementary specific. There wasn't a whole lot of guideline on middle and high school. What's that going to look like next year? Do you know, Renee?
Interesting, Matt, because I had the same observation. I also participated in the online webinar that happened earlier this week from Department of Education. And within that webinar, it was fascinating because there were multiple times where they were referencing children, and I felt like they kept referencing younger children. And not that that's a problem, because I understand developmentally you may feel like our younger children need more support than the older children, but realistically, our older children need just as much, if not more support, especially when it comes to the social emotional health and their well-being. So with that in mind, I know that the guidelines that they're talking about in here, they're looking to how they translate in the junior high and high school landscape, but I'm curious about things like changing classes and, you know, and the physicality of the junior high school experience. How do you stay 6 feet apart when you have 2,000 kids enrolled in a school?
Sure.
Like, is that even physically possible? If you had everybody on the field, would we still be, you know what I mean? And so I think that one thing, though, that I feel incredibly blessed with in Santa Clarita Valley, you know, our Heart District is a great district. They are actively looking to get voice and to get opinion on these kind of topics. And so as we move forward with what the junior highs and high school look like, I think we'll have a really good opportunity for us as parents and educators to share what we think is correct. Or what we think is a best practice. One thing, though, I will tell you, Matt, and maybe I can get this before I'm on again. I'm going to contact some of my colleagues at Department of Education and ask them explicitly about junior highs and high school and say, this is what the field wants now, what's coming, and what can you share with us? Because we might be able to get some of the experts to say, hey, here's this other thing that's coming out, you know, and let us know what's coming next. So I think that's just one thing to note. I do also want to make comment about special education, because
yes,
I know many of us have children with IEPs, 504 plans. I have many friends that were frustrated when we transferred into a distance learning environment because their children were used to getting very specialized, specific support, and in a distance learning format, it took a while to figure out what is that going to look like and whatnot. So please know that when it comes to special education, the document starts talking about special ed specifically on page 19. They're looking at what does an inclusive design look like? How do we make sure that we have a special education program that is meeting every child individually, while at the same time making sure their health and safety is the top priority. When we're looking at any children who are medically fragile or immune compromised, I mean, we need to look at how are we going to safeguard those children. So in terms of special education, the discussion has begun, but I believe there needs to be more discussion in this area. And in terms of also the 7 through 12, same thing. The discussion has started, but there needs to be more in that area. I had the opportunity, actually, the day before we shut down, I was in Sacramento, and I had the opportunity to meet the person who's in charge of special education at the statewide level from Department of Education. So in addition to reaching out to CDE about 7 through 12, I'd be happy to reach out to CDE about special ed to say, hey, what other resources do you have or is coming down the pipeline? So that way we can be proactive. If that sounds of interest, I'd be happy to do that.
Absolutely. We'd love to hear what they have to say about English learners as well.
Yes, and there's a section on English learners, but it's like, 2 pages.
Sure.
So it's not, it's the beginning of the discussion. As I was saying before, it's not the end all with all means.
Yeah, still need a lot more information, and you know what, the state and your schools and your school district need your input. You need to be letting your schools and districts know what you need, what works for your family, what works for your child, knowing that there's going to be different models and different needs for each different family. Now is the time for you to advocate for the needs of your child and your family. Renee, we've only got a couple more minutes. Do please promise that you'll come back soon. But before you go, I just wanted to ask you one last question. What would you say specifically to parents at this time?
I would say that it's really essential that we try to keep a positive attitude. I try to look at things in an asset model instead of a deficit model. I know that might sound kind of silly, but I look at the assets involved versus constantly looking at the deficit of things. You might say that I wear rose-colored glasses, but I'm not an ignorant person at all. I'm an optimistic person who has 2 13-year-olds in my house who are depending on me to stay positive about what the future of education looks like. If we as parents spend so much time bashing distance learning or bashing wearing a mask or bashing something that is a Department of Health mandate that we can't control, how do you think our kids are going to respond when they go to school come fall? They're going to be defiant. They're going to be angry. They're going to be like thinking that this is, we have to, we're settling for distance learning, or we're settling for this blended model. We don't want to have that kind of mentality. We need to be positive as the adults in these children's lives. So that way, as we're moving forward, they're positive about the possibilities too. I mean, we might have an opportunity where you might have a school district that decides that each one of their schools is going to take a different model, and the families can choose what's going to work. You might, like for instance, Cascade District, they've got 3 elementary schools. That would be a great district to pilot 3 different models and have parents choose where their kids go. I mean, this is the time for voice. This is the time to talk to principals, to talk to superintendents, to talk to the board members. Your board members, your school board members guide decision making. Know them. Go online. Check them out on Facebook or check them out on Instagram or whatever platforms they're using. It'll give you a really good sense of the direction they're going. Plus, you'll know when you can be chiming in and sharing your voice. And please know, every single board meeting is a public meeting. Parents and community can always invite it. Don't expect a special invitation. The invitation is ongoing.
Even with social distancing, parents can get online and attend their board meetings, right?
Which is so awesome, because instead of attending the 4-hour board meeting, you can go for the hour and a half you want to.
There you go.
Know? And that's one thing to note. Board meetings are exhausting. They're very, very long, but at the same time, you get access to so much information.
Renee, we do have to go right now. That is all the time that we have, but we want to thank you so much. Thank the rest of our guests, Mayor Cameron Smythe, as well as Kristina de Bree. I'm your host, Matt Watson. Join us again tomorrow and every Monday through Friday at 9 a.m. This is Eye on the Valley on your hometown station, KHTS.
Hi, I'm Miles McNamara, Certified Senior Advisor and owner of